Usually on these close-up beginnings, we like to do a joke. The show's a joke, so we don't need to. All right, coming out the gate swinging. Hello, interwebs.
Incel, misogynist, sexist,
fragile man babies.
fragile man
Put
baby.
aside their egos enough to watch She-Hulk review. Hello, interwebs, and welcome to Close Up. I'm your co-host, Joe.
And I'm Ryan.
Today, we review Marvel's She-Hulk. Full spoilers ahead. You've been warned. Also, we don't bash on it the entire time. We do have some good things to say, so, calm down. Calm down. Zooming into our medium shot now. Ryan, tell me your background on the Hulk character, and how excited were you for this series?
Where do I start? I think
Childhood.
the only thing in recent memory for me for the Hulk was probably Edward Norton. That's really it. And then after that, you saw I didn't read comics as a kid, but you saw the, cartoons come out, little movies come out. I always saw him either fighting Wolverine or Thor on the internet. That was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really care for Hulk as a young man. I don't think he's he's like my least favorite Avenger, probably. Not in terms of just, I don't think he's weak by any means, but I just don't think there's much to his story.
Weak? He's the strongest Avenger, Ryan. Thank you very much.
Whatever. But yeah, I like him. I like Mark Ruffalo. I just don't think I'm not as interested in his story as much as the MCU is, which they gloss over a lot or show his character development off screen.
Yeah, which tells me the MCU doesn't care about his story either, so.
Oh. Yeah. Anyway, we'll get to it. Yeah. But, I was marginally excited for this because I like quote-unquote law dramas. I heard it was going to be fourth wall breaking, and I kind of like meta joke commentary stuff.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I was kind of a little excited going into it, and then like everybody else, when they saw Daredevil in the trailer, I was really excited. So I can't really say I was excited for She-Hulk by herself. I was intrigued at the first 2 episodes. But, I just thought, I don't think this is meant to be taken seriously. I'm going to try to have the most fun with it as I can.
Okay. So my first exposure to the Hulk character was probably from reruns of the old Bill Bixby, Lou Ferrigno series from the 70s when I was really little. My parents used to tell me I'd run out of the room whenever Hulk transformed because it scared me so much. So I guess that's an early childhood trauma. I watched the old Hulk movies. What's his name? Eric Bana, I think his name was, and Edward Norton, and followed Mark Ruffalo's version in the MCU with mild interest. Hulk was never my favorite by any stretch, as you said, not even close. But She-Hulk had my interest for a few reasons, namely Daredevil. She-Hulk's marketing campaign was brilliant for including the Man Without Fear, because Daredevil is my favorite Marvel character of all time. Movies, comics, shows, you name it, I'll buy it if it's Daredevil. So to see him back in any capacity was worth the price of admission for me. I wasn't sold on the show whatsoever before I saw he'd be in it, and I wouldn't have even watched She-Hulk if it wasn't for the promise of Matt Murdock, just being honest. But I will say, I know the She-Hulk from the comics has a reputation as a fun, unique character. I had little faith in the current MCU to use the property well, but I was mildly curious. So I figured it might be fun enough before Daredevil showed up. And that got me through it. And that brings us to our close-up. Let's talk about this thing.
Close up. I'm trying a new thing. You're making it echo.
Close up.
You probably won't edit it in, but
Close up.
You gotta revamp your style every now and then. Anyway.
Where to start?
So
I nearly quit after episode 1.
And I stayed because of episode 1.
We had very different opinions on the first 2 episodes.
Very different opinions.
I was nearly out.
Me and Joe can't agree on anything. If we were ever on a superhero team, it would not go well. We just couldn't agree on anything.
Yeah, we'd start our own civil war.
Mm-hmm.
We'd be the Tony and
It'd
Cap.
just be over the dumbest things too. It'd be like, what do you want to have on your fries? It's like, oh, I'll have cheese.
Ketchup.
No, I want ketchup. And it's just, yeah, it's ketchup. Obviously. Okay, so we agree on something. Anyway.
Mayonnaise. Throw mayonnaise on my
that's for
fries.
weird people. That's for Europeans.
Uh-huh.
And they can keep that.
Ketchup and mayonnaise. Yeah, Ryan and I are ketchup and mayonnaise. We can't agree on anything, but that's what makes this podcast fun, is our constantly different opinions. So maybe talk about what you liked about episode 1, and I'll tell you what turned me off pretty quick.
Well, what I liked about episode 1 is stuff that you hated about episode 1. I liked, now this was
I can
what,
counterpoint
this is 9 weeks ago.
Give or
So just
take.
off the top of my head, I liked how when Jen was explaining how she was able to be in tune with her emotions is because she's a woman, she's had to deal with it all her life. I've been surrounded by in the acting world, both men and women, and it's true. So it was a simple explanation. To me, it didn't come off as cocky or as judgmental towards men. It was just her trying to explain herself. But then they kind of didn't made that make sense because 5 seconds later she gets really angry and turns into the Hulk. Anyway.
Yeah, so for me,
I also liked...
Oh, sorry. Can I counter?
You go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I'll counter you as you go.
Back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah. So you liked the emotional control and how she talked about her hardships as a female, being able to have her control that. I did not like that, because to me, when she lays out all her hardships in life, I thought that came across as cheap and lazy from a writing perspective, because she's telling us all these things, but we just have to take her word for it. Not that women don't have hard lives, or that there isn't double standards and women have to work harder in our society. Like, I think a lot of that is true, but the point is, they don't actually show Jennifer Walters' life being hard. From what we can tell of her in this first episode, she is already a competent lawyer and ambitious who isn't doing that bad in her career. And then she gets superpowers, which she can immediately control. She's got like a cheerleader for a best friend. She's, she's doing fine. Like she tells us, oh, woe is me, my life is so hard. But everything the show shows us tells us she's doing perfectly fine. Like, everyone in her life is super supportive. She's got a decent job, has superpowers. And basically the show, I think, is using actual hardships for women just as a cheap way to make us care about Jennifer Walters. They're trying to say, oh, you should sympathize with her for all these reasons we're not going to show you, but we're just going to tell you this is why you should sympathize with her. Well, sorry, show, it didn't work, because as much as I can sympathize about the struggles of women, it doesn't make me sympathize with Jennifer Walters. And that's all you needed to do for this show. I need to get on board with your character, not just philosophical debates about gender divides in society. Like, you're trying to tap into a bigger issue, but that's not the point here. I got to care about your character, and you didn't sell me. So that was my problem with that early.
Yeah, it's very tough because I see what you're saying, and you're completely right. It's hard because, and I'm not trying to give the writers any credit whatsoever.
Yeah.
It is tough to write a, 9-episode show.
This is just episode 1 problems. This is like, I do think that they got better, and I will talk about what I liked about it better as it went. This was just like what turned me off of episode 1 immediately. They're like the fake sympathy they're trying to get us for. Like, I actually sympathized with her later, and we'll get to that when they actually show us things, like I was saying. But episode 1, they just tell us, and that wasn't enough. So like, this is just right away they made a bad impression on me.
Well, the weird thing is they're trying to push this message about gender equality but in a way where it's also supposed to be comedic. So they can't be too serious with it, or they don't want to be too serious with it, and the
It's a
examples
comedy
they
show,
try to
so-
use is the most extreme sense of just toxic masculinity, where it's
Her lawyer.
and especially in
Ex-
episode 1,
yeah.
her lawyer partner, who is just constantly hitting on women left, right, and center, which, I'm sorry, there might be some people like that in real life, but I don't think like a partner at a law firm is hitting on every single woman at the law firm.
Okay, see, that's another thing, right? Because at the very first episodes, the only men she was introduced to were those guys hitting on her outside the
hitting on
bar or guys like that. And that was another terrible first impression. I'm like, oh, so this is just how all men in the show were going to be. And they weren't. It got better as it went.
Except Bruce.
Yeah, except Bruce. Bruce was the only good guy in those first few episodes, but like, this is the first few episodes. So once again, it just made a terrible impression on me because, oh, so this is how this show portrays men. Okay. And it got better. But when you're just watching those first 2 episodes combined with the things I already said, once again, the writing looks very heavy-handed and trying to force a point that didn't come across organically. And I'm like, okay, you can do this, but I'm not feeling it.
And it's not to say that She-Hulk is a bad character. It's just the message that they're trying to push is not conveyed in the best way. And the best example I can think of that is, if the message they're trying to push is that women have it harder in the world that they're in, the best example for that is House of the Dragon. That's going on right now.
Yeah.
And showing how
The Woman King is also a great example.
I haven't seen that yet, but I've heard good things.
Yeah.
But I won't bring it up now, but I'll talk to you after the podcast.
Okay.
So, there's something that Viola Davis said that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I love her a bit, though. She's one of the probably the greatest actresses of all time.
Yeah. I know people are boycotting it or whatever, but it's a great movie. I'm a fan.
I've heard amazing things, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, you were in the middle of a point.
But with the House of the Dragon, I actually messaged this to you, is that the House of the Dragon characters that are women, I could have phrased that better. The women characters in House of the Dragon, they're strong characters not because they say to the camera, hey, I'm a strong character and you should respect me because I'm a woman. It's just the actions that they do that make them strong and the most fun characters. I mean, 2 examples, which won't be heavy spoilers, but is when Rhaenyra, the main character of the show, you could argue, in episode 2, basically stops a war by riding in on a dragon, looking her uncle in the face and being like, hey, if you want to, be heir to the throne again, I'm right here. Kill me. And he's just like, damn. Like, that's such a badass moment. And then the second main actress, Alicent, and I don't like that I'm using both the young actresses episodes to prove my point.
Yeah, but it's early.
The
It's
older
early.
ones
You don't
have
want to
ones too.
spoil. Yeah, you don't want to spoil anything.
But also, they all have great moments, the younger and older actresses. But the her final episode for Alicent, she walks in the wedding dinner.
Okay, I'm not there yet.
Dress.
Oh, green dress. Okay, that's another.
You're not there yet?
No.
Oh my God, Joe. All right. She walks in wearing something that symbolizes her strength and her finally coming out of her shell, and it signifies yeah.
All right.
I did not know you weren't up to that point. I thought you were on episode 6. My fault.
No, I'm on episode 5 now.
It's those little examples where you can have this message of...
Yeah, it's very clearly a man's world in House of the Dragon. There's a lot of talk about only the male heirs get to be king, and nobody wants Princess Rhaenyra to be queen, even though she's the only heir of the king. So even from day one, the cards are stacked against her. But she never does the Jennifer Walters thing where she basically goes inward and is like,
feels sorry for me because
the entire Jennifer Walters self-pities for the entire show. Not just about, being a woman or hardships of women, but just she's a very self-pitying character in general, which I understand why that rubs a lot of people the wrong way. I kind of got used to it, but it was a very bad first impression. Princess Rhaenyra doesn't self-pity. much. I mean, she has a
No.
little bit of that, but it's also,
Look what happened in episode 3.
yeah. But she shows her strength. Like, it's once again, she's not telling us how hard it is. The show shows us how hard it is for her. We don't need her to tell us all the time. We can see it and we sympathize because she's not trying to constantly call it out. That would make her just a bit annoying.
Yeah. And we're not saying that you can't self-pity as a character, but to have that be your entire emotion throughout the whole show, you're just going to get tired of it. And it's not that Jen does it all the time, but it's probably like something she does 75% of the time. And the other 25%, she cracks jokes towards the camera.
Yeah.
But other than that, I just don't think it was as strong as House of the Dragon. And some people are going to be like, well, you're comparing MCU writing to, George R.R. Martin. So you can't make that comparison.
Yeah,
yes,
but why?
I can make that comparison.
Yeah, why not?
Why?
Why should the MCU be held to a lower standard?
Exactly.
Not that it needs to be a compelling drama. It's a legal comedy, but, good writing can still be good writing, so... Oh, speaking of good writing, should we talk about how the show's not really that funny for most of it?
Yeah. I was telling you when I was doing weekly updates and I messaged you, I was like, man, I'm struggling to keep up with this show. And it's not that I don't like the character, I just didn't like how they were being episodic and trying to do a law drama, even though they came out and said, oh, this isn't really a law drama show because we don't really know how to write that. But then they end up doing it, and then they show that they can't write it like that. It's bizarre.
There's about 35 minutes of each show, and I maybe laughed a couple times every episode.
Yeah.
The hit-to-miss ratio on the humor, and of course humor is subjective. I'm sure there's people who find this show hilarious, and good on you. I'm glad if you find enjoyment in things. But for me personally...
Obviously, this show is not tailored towards us, but also I think that's also weak writing as well, because if you're going to tailor to a specific audience, you have to try and also bring in other demographics.
Yeah. And you know why I thought the writing was annoying in particular to me? Because I saw the potential in it, is the thing. When I'm watching these episodes, I look at the premises of the episodes, and I can see why they made it past a pitch. They're actually really funny premises. Like in episode 3, when Titania tries to trademark the She-Hulk name. That's funny. The guy who stole a sling ring from Kamar Taj and tries to be a stage magician with it. That's a funny premise on paper. Her having to represent Emil Blonsky, who was, fought her cousin. Like that's an interesting premise too. What was another one? The wedding one wasn't really that good.
No, because Titania shows up again.
Yes.
The character I hated most in this was Titania, because she kept just showing up.
Through walls.
Shouldn't she be in jail?
She's like the Kool-Aid man, coming in through every wall.
I know, but shouldn't she be in jail? She went through a courtroom and tried to murder a witness. Why is she not in jail?
I don't remember exactly, but they went through that very quickly. I think it was in episode 3 or 4. There was a news broadcast. There was a news broadcast Jen watched where they very quickly said why she got out. I don't remember what happened there, but she got acquitted for some stupid reason.
Literally, this is the first thing that pops up that autocorrects when I put why isn't Titania, and the first thing that pops up is in jail.
But I gotta say, with Titania, Jamila Jamil is really funny in it. I don't understand the character, but she's funny and she tries so hard, and I love her arrogance. She was always interesting to watch. I liked it when she was on screen. I just didn't like what they did with her. And the other thing that bothered me about Titania is that she's, for all intents and purposes, the main villain of the season. Well, Jennifer Walters fights her 4 times in the course of season 1.
Yeah.
And then they kind of just drop her. Nothing really goes anywhere with her.
There's a lot of things that get dropped. either for the sake of just dropping them or for sake of a joke at the end.
For some reason, they made Intelligentsia the main villain, which...
Well, Intelligentsia, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the comics, it's supposed to be this major organization that is actually a threat. But in the MCU, it's now just run by a bunch of fragile men who are also incels. Like, that was their whole joke.
Well, okay, it's actually called Intelligentsia. I just called it Intelligentsia because...
Oh, I didn't even pick that up.
Yeah. I was wondering. I was wondering if you know.
But yeah, there's that change that some people are mad about, but also I just have a different gripe with the MCU and Hulk in general that we'll get to later.
Yeah.
But my main problem with this show, I think it could have worked if they didn't make every client of Jen Walters a fucking idiot.
That's true.
Every client she had was just on some level an idiot. I'm not talking about in terms of intelligence. I'm just talking about the way that they acted. The guy who got married hundreds of times, the magician, leapfrog, whatever.
Ribbit and Rip
But
It.
he was meant to be an idiot. That's the only one that I accepted as being an idiot.
I accepted... Wong was her client, too. Blonsky wasn't that bad.
Well, Wong wasn't bad.
Blonsky was okay.
Well, those two. But as they went on, they just got more and more dumb. And I was just like, if I was a lawyer, I would not take on any of these clients. Is the only reason she's taken on these clients is because she's supernatural? I wanted to, you know what, honestly, even though it was probably the weirdest cameo I've seen in the MCU, I wanted her to take on a case with Megan Thee Stallion. Like, what kind of case would she would have had?
Don't get me started on that scene.
You know, maybe they would have had to twerk again.
Okay, we're in that scene. That scene...
They released a behind the scenes. It's on their Instagram of Tatiana Maslany in the mocap suit twerking.
You know what my favorite part about that scene was?
Was it the guy shaking his head and leaving?
No, it was that
her boss.
It was that they blatantly put it as the first clip in the Daredevil episode in episode 8 on the previously on. There was no reason for them to do it other than they just wanted to reuse it, and I feel like they knew it was going to be controversial and they put it up again. Like, my blood boiled the second time I saw it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I'm like, this is actually funny that they used it again. They had the guts to use it again. And that just made me laugh after I got angry at it. I'm like, okay, I respect that they doubled down.
I understand why they did it, because Megan Thee Stallion and twerking, they're trying to take that back as sort of female empowerment. But also, when you tell a VFX artist, I need you to animate She-Hulk twerking, I just don't know if I can get behind that. No pun intended.
I call that the moment I nearly quit the MCU altogether. It was...
Oh, man.
It actually...
There were so many memes where it was like, Tony Stark died for this. And to be fair...
Yeah.
There's a lot of little dumb things that happen in life that people have died for in our time. I think about it all the time. Yeah. You know? Like, man, people in World War I died so that kids can be dumb on TikTok. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And I know it's just a dumb, funny scene, and I know I shouldn't be that mad about it.
Thank God it was an end credit scene, so you don't take it that seriously.
Yeah, but it's also like, there's just so many reasons it bothered me. I mean, first of all, well, I mean, it's a comedy show, but lawyers shouldn't be that unprofessional.
Twerking?
Yeah, well, not in front of their clients. Second...
Or with their clients.
Second, the shoehorned in celebrity cameo of the week that had no bearing on the plot whatsoever. It was just, ooh, there's a celebrity cameo. And also the reference...
Oh, yeah, because...
She was just in the courtroom.
Someone ghosted... Oh, no, because of that elf, remember? Or the fairy from Asgard who was posing as her.
Yeah.
Her client was her ex-lawyer partner who thought he was in a relationship with Megan Thee Stallion. And then for some reason, Megan Thee Stallion actually showed up.
Yeah.
That whole episode, I was just kind of annoyed because... Not because of the premise, but that fairy lady just kept, like, transforming and doing dumb stuff. I was like, man, someone just shoot her. Like, there's guns in this universe, right? Yeah. Someone please just shoot her.
So, yeah, it was the shoehorn celebrity cameo of the week. That twerking is such an old thing already, and they're like, it screams of, like... It's like Marvel's in their middle-aged phase and trying to be relevant still. And it just made me... It just hurt to watch as an MCU fan. I'm like,
well,
I think
to be fair, that's
this,
usually...
Love and Thunder.
That's usually how writing is, because let's face it, they were probably writing this
A few years ago, but even
in
that
the
was too early.
a few years ago.
Even that was
It
too
might have been
old.
too early.
It was old even then. They're like,
But
Turking
even
was
then-
over in 2017.
Yeah, but I think the female empowerment kind of got bigger, but that kind of happens with a lot of writers' rooms where they'll take something that's popular right then and there and work it into their show, but as time goes by, they don't realize that it gets older. And I can't think of another example in a TV show or something where that happens. I think some kid was like dabbing or something, and they didn't realize that was dead.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, that happens a lot with writers' rooms. So I can kind of, I still think it was just, it didn't, I'm sure a lot of people thought it was funny, especially when she says, "I will kill you, Megan Thee Stallion," because I've heard people say that before. But just, I watched that and I was like, wow, is this worse than the Captain America musical? It's not.
It just made, no, the Captain America musical was awesome. There was production value there. They tried real hard to make something, and I could believe that could be an actual thing like that. I love that. This is just, it made my heart sink. I'm like, they're playing this totally straight. Like, this is what the MCU is now. And this is...
Do you think old Captain America went to see the musical?
Maybe.
Do you think old man Steve Rogers went?
I don't know. Not even Hawkeye could sit through it.
Yeah, he's got PTSD, not because the musical was bad, though.
I don't think he was enjoying it very much either.
But then the kids came out, too, so they were like, yeah, it's bad.
I would see it, though.
Anyway.
I would see that musical.
Oh, I'd see it. Any bad musical can have some fun in it,
Yeah. The Avengers musical. It was... all right. What else?
Let's move on from twerking.
Okay. Let's talk about the supporting cast. We talked a little bit about Jamila Jamil already as Titania, but I thought the supporting cast in this show were mostly just useless. I'm trying to think of a function for all of them, and they were either just kind of the nuisance villains, or they were basically just there to prop Jennifer Walters up. Like, did Nikki have any character besides just being Jen's hype woman?
No, she's the token hype woman that's in every lead female movie or TV show. There has to be a sidekick or lead hype woman who she was funny at some points. But here's also the other thing. The only good guy in the show, who's named Pug, who's like the only decent character.
Useless too. He had no
He's named Pug because he's treated as a dog and told what to do. And he's like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, he was like that.
Like, you can't even... You're criticizing men, but then you also don't know how to write strong men. It feels like most of the show is just, we hate our male MCU audience. Yeah, but we're just going to bash everything that's wrong about you.
I was just about to say, though, when it comes to someone like Nikki, they don't know how to write good women either. Like, an actual show that wanted a female empowerment angle, you'd think they'd write their female characters better than that. They put all their focus on Jen Wald, like, not even, what's her name, Mallory, or something, like, she was the second strongest
Brittany
one.
with a Y, but it's not what you think.
Madison. Yeah. I mean, look at the female characters. Look at the female characters they write on this show. I mean, I can understand why people say they don't
I think Madison needs to go to a fucking detox.
Yeah.
Because she's drunk all the time, or she's actually just from the valley.
So, yeah, it's true.
Because she's always talking like this.
So they don't write the men well.
Juan.
They don't write the women well either. So that's equality, people. That's real equality.
That's real equality.
Everybody on this show sucks.
Everyone sucks. Except for...
Jennifer? Daredevil. That should have been my first guess.
Do you think... I'm just going to say it. Do you think the people in those writers' rooms, like on screen, were the actual writers? Because I don't think I would show my face.
I think
some of them were. But if there's actually like 8 writers, I would have lost my mind.
It's probably for the same reason Kevin Feige didn't show his face either.
That's brilliant.
Producers and writers don't act.
Should we just talk about that?
I don't know. There was other stuff I wanted to get to first.
Okay, yeah. Let's get to that and then Daredevil next, and then...
So we have any more to say on the supporting cast? I mean, there was...
they weren't
They had
they weren't
moments.
particularly weak, but they weren't strong. I mean, they all had their little moments. But also, I feel like when they tried to give their moments, they just took away from Jennifer's moments.
Yeah.
It was just weird. And I'm going to compare this with Miss Marvel a lot, because where Miss Marvel failed was completely different, where there wasn't really a threat throughout the whole show. Kamala still had great moments, and she was an amazing character. Where if the show She-Hulk, they were trying to introduce too many different characters all at once, and have Jen be like, this is crazy, what's happening here? And I just feel like they need to focus on her character more, instead of being like, I'm lonely and I can only get dates as She-Hulk.
Going back to the bad writing, I have to bring up a point that I've been bringing up since very early on in the show. I like to believe that there was one competent writer in the writer's room who wrote all the fourth wall breaks in the whole last episode. Because all those fourth wall breaks were basically just
Kevin.
They were just, all those fourth wall breaks, every single one of them was criticizing the show as it was happening. Criticisms that I had while I was watching it. And part of me was like, so this is the double-edged sword I was telling you about earlier. So part of me says, oh, I respect the show is self-aware enough to critique itself. But then the other part of me says, well, that makes it worse, actually.
You still showed us, you showed...
Yeah, because somebody in the writer's room realized what was happening, and they still let it go through. But then they just make these little jokes about it, so people will say, oh, it's so cute, they're self-aware, this show is so quirky and relatable,
Well, you still made me sit through at least 2 hours of just nothing.
I'm like, but you still did the bad stuff. Like...
If this was what the show was, how self-aware the MCU was the entire time, it would have been probably one of the best shows out there.
Yeah.
But since it only had a mid-good first few episodes, and then probably an excellent finale, it's just treated as a big joke. Because I told you when I first finished, I was like, the end is brilliant.
It is.
And then I sat
great end.
for a while. And then was like, no, wait. But you calling yourself out basically tells me you know your writing was stupid. So did you mean for the writing to be stupid, or did you not? And if you didn't, is that worse?
It's worse.
It just made me think too much. Yeah.
The fourth wall breaks are brilliant. They're the funniest part of the show consistently, but it's also, well, if you knew you were making a terrible show as you were doing it, you're calling yourself out as you're doing, and I know it's like you're trying to get ahead of your critics, but somebody in that writer's room, I said, I like to believe there was one person who realized what they were making and just slipped those in as an apology.
Do you think that's how the Marvel office looks like? As soon as you walk in, there's the 3 Iron Man suits behind you.
I hope so. I hope they just
check-in desk.
I hope
and then
that
to
was
get
the
to
actual
Kevin's
office.
it's like, to get to Kevin's office, it's like a really long hallway.
Yeah.
And then he's just surrounded by screens and then these plaques of comic books. I hope so. That'd be really funny.
Justin made a hilarious point when I watched the episode with him last night, and I like how he saw the meta layer behind it that I didn't catch right away. He's like, oh, so they're just basically saying the MCU is AI-generated content now?
Yeah.
I
did like one of their jokes where one of the writers was like, nobody sees Kevin. And I know it was a different thing too, but I was so excited. I was like, is Kevin Feige going to appear? Am I going to see Kevin Feige act? And then they kind of made the joke better when it was an AI robot. I was like, that's genius. Because you can even see in the robot's design, he has a little hat.
Yeah. As soon as she came into that room, I got Matrix Reloaded vibes when Neo meets, I think his name is the Architect.
We need you... Yeah.
And like they have the screen showing all the different realities going on at once. Like I thought that was really cool. May have been directly.
All these self-criticisms.
They're great.
It's weird because
but it's annoying.
They're great, but also it's annoying because if this was the whole show, I would have loved it more. Especially because I knew you would hate this joke, but because it's kind of a double-edged sword. But it was like, we need you to change back to Jen off-screen because the VFX artists have already moved on to a new project. And you hear the kind of like drum beats.
Yeah.
We don't have the budget anymore. And I was like, that's a good joke. But Joe's going to be like, motherfucker, you just admitted that you underpay your VFX artists.
Yeah, exactly.
And you overwork them.
I've been complaining about Marvel's CGI for probably 5 years now or more. I've been saying it's getting worse for many, many years. And like, that's Marvel just straight up.
It's a good joke.
Yeah. Once again,
but you're just...
that's Marvel straight up admitting in their own show that their VFX is taking a downturn.
Oh,
So,
man.
but once again, what do you do with that? It's a hilarious joke, and I love this the self-confidence they have to admit that joke in a show they paid for, but also it doesn't make it better that it's still happening. Oh, let's talk about the CGI now. I will defend some of the CGI. I will defend that I think the She-Hulk model looks good in pictures when it's still, but every time it moves, it's uncanny valley, but it's not bad.
Tough.
It's not bad, it's just uncanny valley, and the motion effects are wonky.
That's the weird part. There are a few times where it's a close up on her face, and either something happens with the face was like, that is not a natural look that she just gave. But and human faces are probably the toughest visual effects to do.
Yeah.
Do you think Kevin Feige knows that he's an AI? Do you think he watched his show at home and he's like, what the hell?
No, I was thinking there was a second layer to that joke as well. There might be a little bit of egotism in there with Kevin Feige basically saying, oh, I work so hard, I'm more a machine than man. And then somebody was like, that's funny, can we use that?
I love when Jen's trying to make the show better, and then the robot just goes, oh, you're sitting down? Like, we're not done here? Like, even that's a good joke. Like, those are good jokes, but the show is still bad because you told me it was bad. And it didn't have to be bad if you were this self-aware.
You didn't make it better.
Unless the whole show... if this whole show was meant to be a joke about how the MCU run things, that's not good. Especially if it's longer than most MCU shows. That's been for the last 2 years.
Yeah. You know what? I was going to say, I had a point on that.
I respect the self-aware.
Yeah.
I just don't think it was executed as well as they could have done it.
I had a point on how many episodes it got this year. I think this season should have gotten more episodes. I think I would have liked it this was 13 episodes, and I'll tell you why. Because to me, the show was finally getting its footing in those last 3 episodes. Episode 7 with the group therapy, the Daredevil one, and the fourth wall-breaking finale. The show was finally hitting its stride in the back half just to end. And I think if they got a full 13-episode season, we wouldn't be having this podcast like, oh, She-Hulk was a bad show. We'd be like, She-Hulk was a show that got a bad first half, and then they found their footing, and the back half of the season was good. Mm-hmm. But, like, the back third of it's good, which is not good. That just makes the overall season weak. Like, if they played more, and it was so episodic anyway, there was no reason you couldn't come up with 4 more standalone episodes to, make it more episodic, have a regular length season. And then I think people would, I would be talking about this show more positively if they kept that upward trend going that they were getting towards the end.
Yeah.
I think I will show up for a season 2 for this because those last few episodes gave me confidence. They finally figured out what they were doing. I was liking it by the end, but too little too late.
Yeah, it's really strange. I kind of agree with you there, but also not, because I don't know how much I could have watched the rest of this. Even though I told you, wow, episode 7, finally a good episode.
And 8 was even better.
It deals with some real life issues in terms of you think you find a relationship and then you get ghosted.
That group therapy session was hilarious.
That's such a modern problem, and I wish it was better if there wasn't a giant man bull there.
Well, that's the MCU of it all.
And then there's like a hypochondriac who's a giant porcupine, but also has like terrible hygiene.
The vampire and the not matador.
Yeah. Not matador. And then Emil. But
yeah.
Episode 8 was great.
Episode 8 was the high point.
How'd you feel about his CGI?
Oh, that was bad.
Yeah, his little acrobats.
Maybe it's because I'm not used to seeing CGI Daredevil.
Because it's so different from the show on Netflix.
The Netflix was very practical in nature. Okay, now I will tell you, this is not about the CGI.
Apparently that's how he's supposed to be in the comics. He's supposed to be very acrobatic, but he still floats. He floats around a lot.
And that felt like comic book Daredevil. That was fine. What I will say is about I have a point about their relationship. So the contrarian in me, who hasn't really been loving this show up to this point, there was that fourth wall break right after she first talking to Matt Murdock, and she looks to the camera and she says, I can't be the only one feeling this, right? And the contrarian in me wanted to be like, no, stupid show things.
Yeah, I was
stupid
like,
show
no.
things. I feel this, but I was like, I do.
I wasn't feeling it at first, and then they were on the rooftop. I was like, okay, now I'm feeling it.
I know, like, I wanted to.
I feel like there's
going to
be a lot of dumb. There's going to be a lot of dumb people that say She-Hulk sleeps around too much, but also she's single. Leave her alone. She's trying to find love.
There's more sex scenes in this show
more sex
than
in
the
this
whole
show
MCU,
than all of the MCU.
which is
Yeah.
weird. It's not what I was expecting. But
let's talk about the biggest quote-unquote slut in the MCU. It's Matt Murdock. I'm sorry. He sleeps with every woman he's met. Yeah. But also, he does it respectfully.
He's a good guy.
I assume. I don't know. I've heard no complaints. I don't know why they would complain to me.
She was definitely not complaining.
No, she wasn't complaining.
She wanted to bring him back.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, get him
Where does
back.
he jump from? He literally pops back in.
That was funny.
Where does he jump from? Like a tree?
My favorite joke in the entire She-Hulk series was like, Hulk smash, this, that, sometimes Matt Murdock. And she looks to the camera and like, that made me laugh my ass off. That was...
It's like, oh yeah,
That was the funniest joke in the whole
X-Men?
show.
She has a little tongue thing. She's like, when are we getting the X-Men? That is classified.
Yeah, see, this is why I wanted to see more of the show, because Tatiana Maslany is fantastic. Her material was trash for so much of the season.
She's great.
But she was great, and I want to see her back. And you know what? I'm going to be controversial here. I'm going to say something controversial. I don't care about Bruce Banner. Yeah, I don't care about Bruce Banner. I'd rather see more She-Hulk than the Hulk.
Because all of his character development is off screen.
Banner hasn't been interesting since Age of Ultron. It's been 7 years. I'm done with him. And Mark Ruffalo's fine, but he's so, low-key, and, Tatiana Maslany is charismatic. She's fun. Jennifer Walters is a fun character. When Bruce Banner's on, I'm bored or I'm cringing at Professor Hulk. I don't like what the characters Bruce Banner was very interesting at the beginning. He's defined by his trauma, by his rage. He's got, he could turn at any second into the Hulk. He's like a ticking time bomb. And now he's just Professor Hulk. He's a big personality. And I don't know.
Here's the timeline of the Hulk. Ready? So, introduced in the Avengers. Well, in the Incredible Hulk, right?
Yeah.
He's an angry boy. He gets controlled by the end and then has a complete recast. Age of Ultron happens. He learns a little lullaby with Black Widow.
Sounds good. Real low, big guy.
Which I was not against that coupling when it first came out, okay? I liked it.
Yeah.
So screw all you haters. And then he leaves to go to Sakaar somehow. Because he's in a Quinjet, but I don't think Quinjets work in space. It doesn't matter. He's trapped in the Hulk body. That's off screen. Thor meets him on Sakaar. He's, he gets turned back into Bruce because he sees a video of Nat. And Bruce is like, oh, I've been Hulk for 2 years. I can't turn the Hulk again. I don't know if I can ever be Bruce again if that happens. Turns into Hulk anyway to defeat Hela.
Don't forget he apparently had a son while he was on Sakaar.
Maybe. Apparently. Or I have a different theory about that. And then in Infinity War, he gets his ass handed to him by Thanos.
Retreats into himself.
I was fine with that.
Doesn't want to be Hulk anymore.
And then I was like, oh, how are they going to explain how he's going to get over this trauma? Endgame happens. He's just in a diner as Professor Hulk. I was like, no. This should have been an opening scene of him working through it or something.
Okay, and
you didn't have to do Professor Hulk right away. And then in She-Hulk, he goes off screen again. Okay. And he comes back with a son.
Okay, now this is the point I have to make here. I don't know if they did this on purpose, but this is another one of those double-edged sword things for me. Because She-Hulk being the self-referential fourth wall breaking show that it is, I nearly think it was intentional that they introduced Bruce Banner, gave him a whole arc for the season that happened off screen. I think that was the show being like, this is how all the other Hulk stories have gone in the MCU, so why not in the Hulk show? And I think that was, once again, I want to see the Hulk's development, but the show also knows this isn't how Bruce Banner's been treated traditionally, so we're just going to double down on that and kind of make a joke out of it. Every time the Hulk shows back up, he's done all this stuff off screen and makes you intentionally wonder where he's been. But he did it multiple times in She-Hulk, which tells me that it was a joke. Which once again is funny, but it's annoying. It's funny, but it's annoying. Like just the show in general.
That's the whole thing, right? It's annoying. They got rid of Hulk's most interesting story arc, which was World War Hulk.
Yeah.
And made it completely off screen, where it was, spoilers for the comics, but the Illuminati of Earth sent Hulk there because he was too destructive. He takes over Sakaar, but then what happens is the ship that he was in basically he becomes king of that planet for a few years, and he's fine being peaceful as the Hulk. And then what happens, the ship he was on blows up and destroys everybody. It destroys his wife that he had. So he goes back to Earth with his gladiator buddies and just beats the living crud out of the Illuminati. That would have been amazing to see on screen. But now he's just like, no, I worked through my trauma off screen. That Tony helped build for me with this little mini bar. And now he just has a son, and I'm just like, I don't care. And I will care if the movie that they're referencing is him going to Sakaar in the first place. Because in universe, Sakaar time works differently, where I think it moves slower there.
Oh, okay.
I think that's a thing. So he could have a whole lifetime there, but it could only feel like a week or so in regular universe time. I don't know.
That's probably why he's got a son who's like a teenager already, and he hasn't.
Yeah. Who has the worst haircut I've ever seen in my life? It's got the front of his hair is cut, but the whole back is. I don't know, man.
Interesting. I also want to talk about, well, just. This kind of reminds me of another problem I had with the show, is that, going back to bad writing, it avoids conflict at every opportunity. And I noticed that especially in the first few episodes. I thought, okay.
It avoids it as the finale.
When the finale is another big example. But one thing I thought was, and this is once again a bad impression for the Jennifer Walters character, but when she was tasked with getting Emil Blonsky for a client, and she called up Bruce, I'm like, oh, that's kind of nice of her. She's gonna, ask for his blessing or something, just to see if he's cool with, her doing this. And then she immediately just basically called him to tell him she's doing it. She wasn't asking him if he was okay with that. And that's one thing. Like, that's okay. She can make that decision. But the show takes the easy way out just by having Hulk be totally fine with it. There's no conflict with her cousin whatsoever. Just, there's stuff like that.
That's not interesting writing.
Yeah. It's stuff like that sprinkled throughout the entire show. Like, I'm fine Jennifer Walters made a selfish decision by taking on a client for money. But why does Hulk have to be okay with that? Just so there's no conflict between the two cousins? That's the only, like, that doesn't feel right.
Because he's a changed man.
Yeah.
It's like, whatever.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff like that. And like you said, the entire season finale as well. The entire thing is a lesson in conflict avoidance. Everything builds up just for her to be like, no, I don't want any of this conflict to happen, actually. Let's just rewrite it.
Well, what I thought they were doing was, because they started to shrink all the people who were Hulk or Abomination.
Yeah.
And then I thought they were going to cut back to her in the barn and now dealing with it as like a lawyer. But they just cut to like the conflict being over and Todd is being arrested. Like, whoa. Why don't you show that? And just have I was just like, okay, now let's have like an actually compelling ending. No, we're just going to skip all of it.
And for some reason, Titania was there filming. Like, there was no reason for her to show up. There was no reason for Hulk to show up there either. Or Daredevil.
Titania was still there?
Yeah, she was filming like, oh, I'm about to witness a murder. And Daredevil just shows up too randomly. Like, I get what they were doing. Like, the ending was, it didn't make any sense, and it wasn't gonna make any sense. But it's also,
man,
there was not actually a resolution there. Not really. And then
Daredevil doing the walk of shame, that was pretty funny.
That was hilarious.
Daredevil in the daylight looks very strange.
It is weird.
You know what I mean?
You know what? I fully support that coupling. I would be okay if in the Born Again show he's still dating Jennifer Walters, or if they're kind of just...
They have good chemistry.
They're Marvel's first super couple, really. No, that's not true. Wanda and Vision. Never mind. But they're good, and I want to see more of them.
Human super couple.
Yeah. She's a Hulk and he's a devil?
Yeah. I mean, and I actually want to see him do lawyer stuff. And that was the best part, is when Charlie Cox comes in, and there were some parts where he was speaking so fast I didn't really understand what he was saying, but that was just me.
He had that one joke that made
and I
me
was just
laugh.
like, wow, he's processing. He's like, no, I'm a huge fan of law dramas or legal dramas, because he's like talking so much legal stuff while fighting. And then the frog's like, are you a lawyer? It's like, no, I'm just a huge fan. Huge fan of legal dramas. Is that the joke you're thinking of?
Yeah, I was just thinking about
it. Was what they're in the law room.
No, it was the joke I was thinking, like when he comes in and he's like, yeah, like he was talking about how he couldn't park his car.
Yeah.
Park his car.
It's like, kidding.
Yeah.
I don't.
That to me convinced me that they were gonna do him well, because he still had that kind of. Mm-hmm. It wasn't She-Hulk humor; it was Matt Murdock humor. That's how he was on the old show.
Charlie Cox is so amazing.
Yeah, he still felt like himself.
Yeah. Someone did a TikTok where recently Charlie Cox was doing an interview, and he was kind of doing the blank stare, not on purpose, but just kind of as like he was on a red carpet somewhere and someone was talking to him. And someone made the TikTok, was like, wow, is he just stuck like this because he's been doing it for so long that sometimes will just come naturally?
Have you heard the story that he blew an audition because he did that by accident? And he didn't realize till after. Oh yeah, like after.
Oh no.
Yeah, after Daredevil got canceled, he auditioned for something else, and he told this story at one point, but he blew the audition because he couldn't make eye contact with anybody and his co-stars, and he was still just unconsciously acting as Daredevil, and then somebody told him after, and he's like, "What? I still do that?"
Yeah, I was wondering why he wasn't really in anything else after Daredevil. Maybe because he was just chilling.
Or waiting for Kevin Feige to get his contract ready.
Yeah. I think John Bernthal's confirmed now to come back for Daredevil Born Again.
Nice.
I think they also said Luke. I think there was a room, I don't know if it's true, but the podcast I listened to, they talked about how Kristen Ritter wants to come back, but there's a scheduling conflict. So they are trying to bring back all, or if not most, of the Defenders. You could bring back Danny Rand, just don't make him whiny. And actually give him the mask.
He was a lot better in the Defenders than he was in his own show. I will say. Yeah, I thought so.
Was he really?
Well, it was an improvement.
A little bit, yeah.
It was a marked improvement. But
I just love it looks bad. I know it's supposed to look bad, but I don't like it.
It was never
I hate it.
It was never good. That's why they changed it after like 10 issues in the 60s.
I saw a still of the whole red suit from the Daredevil show, and I was like, that looks so much better. And I hope it's just his California outfit. I really hope that's it. And I know they made a joke where it was like, whoever told you that you could pull off mustard was Ron. And he's like, oh, do you want me to tell the designer that? She's like, no, please, no. Because she's already in bad blood with him.
It's like sports teams. When he's in New York, he wears the red. When he's abroad, he wears his away colors.
Yeah, exactly. Well, my one gripe is just real quick about that is she was so ready to be against her designer really quick because she just believed her client right away, but also didn't do the research of, well, what fuel were you using with the...
Right.
I don't know. That you could easily overlook that, but I guess that led to another great moment with Matt Murdock where he just smells it. He's like,
Jen Walters really isn't the best lawyer. Like, Mallory is the one who did all the actual lawyering in this show. Mallory's the one who took on the guy with all the wives. I think she also represented Jen in the one with the name laws.
She's really good.
She did more lawyering than Jen Walters did in this show. Like, Jen Walters was off doing so many other things.
She was like, listen, Jen, I don't like you. She straight was like, I don't really like you. I don't think you're that great. And you could do better as just a woman and not choose to be with so many shitty men. Fun fact, she is Angelica in Hamilton.
And what? Sorry, you cut out.
In the
on me.
original in Hamilton, she was Angelica.
Oh, okay. Okay. Cool.
That's where I recognized her. I was like, I know you from somewhere. And then I saw a still of her. I was like, oh, she's the original Angelica.
Yeah, so let's see.
But
what
yeah.
else did we have to talk about?
It got me excited for Daredevil until I realized it was delayed and it comes out in 2 years, which is crazy to see. But also, if they're going to take their time with it, fine. I think they also said, 17 episodes? That's crazy.
I think it's 18. And I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that's wild.
I will take that.
Maybe that's when they bring in all the Defenders.
Actually, you know what? I don't know
Yes.
how long that's really going to be hour-wise. Because on Netflix, an hour,
It's like an hour.
13 episode seasons were actually 50 minutes to an hour. But on Disney Plus,
Yeah.
it's probably like 18,
It's like 40 minutes at best.
35-minute episodes. So really, it's still 9 full
She-Hulk
episodes.
is probably the most... She-Hulk probably has the least amount of time, I think, in all the shows. Because they were all like 35 minutes.
I feel like WandaVision had less time, actually.
At the beginning it did, and then it got
Then it got
progressively
longer?
and longer.
Okay.
I think that was on purpose because of the sitcom errors they were trying to
Sitcom
do.
bit, yeah. And it got more into
Because I know
real
the first
world.
episode was like 28 minutes, and then it was like 35. WandaVision's so good. Anyway, I think that's it for
Agreed.
me. Wakanda Forever comes out
That makes me
in,
uncomfortable.
less than a month.
That was hilarious.
And then we will
When are you
do
gonna
our
do
review
that?
of that, and then maybe in the same, no, probably not in the same episode. Maybe in a different episode we will rank Phase 4 because Wakanda Forever ends Phase 4. So far, it's been meh. You know,
It's been bad.
I guess they're
it's
just
it's been
setting up-
outright. No, it's been outright bad, with a couple of shining spots like No Way Home and Shang-Chi and WandaVision.
Moon Knight.
Moon Knight was good too. A lot of people would say Loki. I didn't like it as much as most people.
I love Loki.
I know I'm on the minority there, but like,
What
there's
if?
What If is bad. There's been bright spots, but it's Phase 4 is weak, people. Just generally weak. You got,
Yeah.
for the amount of stuff they've released, their hit to miss ratio is not acceptable. Less than 50% of them have been what I call above average. And that's not
Which is
acceptable.
fine, but it's not the standards that they want to be. Yeah.
Yeah. And even their best stuff that they put out is not as good as the best stuff they've done before. You know?
Yeah. In terms of the movies, I would agree.
Yeah. Their movies have been especially weak. The shows, because they
I
have a
love
little bit.
Shang-Chi, though.
I like 2/3 of Shang-Chi. I love 2/3 of Shang-Chi. I tolerate 1/3 of it.
Mm. It's like the opposite effect of Rogue One. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You tolerate
Yeah.
the first 2/3, and then the final act, you're like, this is the best Star Wars I've seen.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Which I haven't even watched Andor yet. I know.
You need to watch it. It's
I
you
know.
say it's the best Star Wars. Like Andor so far, we're still on She-Hulk. Star Wars fans might not care, but Andor is one of the best TV shows I've seen all year. I do actually compare it to House of the Dragon in terms of the dialogue is very smart and political that way. Like, this is the best written Star Wars I've seen maybe
Wow.
ever, just in general. Like, it's just quality writing. And I would recommend this show to somebody who's never... I would recommend Andor to somebody who's never seen Star Wars. It's a show you can enjoy just on its own merits, I think. But that said, it's also, don't go in expecting action-heavy Star Wars. It's very slow.
Better
and
than George R.R. Martin.
Yeah.
Actually,
It's slow. It's slow and political and character-driven. But let's get back to She-Hulk. Shows you how much we want to talk about that show. But actually,
it's better than Book of Boba Fett. I'll say that, or is it?
She-Hulk.
Which is better?
She-Hulk's better than Book of Boba
She-Hulk
Fett.
or Book of Boba Fett?
Uh,
Now I have to think.
I got more enjoyment out of She-Hulk. I think there's more entertainment value in She-Hulk.
Yeah,
I think Book of Boba Fett is
there's
like
a lot of awesome moments in Book of Boba Fett, but that's because they're Mandalorian episodes.
Book of Boba Fett had 2 great episodes, some of my favorite Star Wars of all time. But they weren't really Book of
Yeah.
Boba Fett episodes, is the problem. The rest of it is just. I think I might actually.
I think that's our margin.
Okay,
That's our margin.
got to think about it this way. Would you go back and watch any of the Book of Boba Fett except those 2 Mandalorian episodes? I would rewatch Ribbit and Rip It, the Daredevil episode. There are She-Hulk episodes or things there are She-Hulk episodes I would happily
I think the only
rewatch.
Book of Boba Fett episode I would watch would be the finale.
And even that was
it.
like, yeah.
Because you have to if you want to watch Mandalorian season 3. It's so weird how they did it. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Jon Favreau is such a hit or miss director. It's so strange.
So you know what?
She-Hulk can't be perfect all the time.
She-Hulk's better than Book of Boba Fett. That's my line in the sand.
It's close. It's close.
They're both bad, but She-Hulk's got more entertainment value, I think.
I will say, with all the shows that have come out to streaming, especially Disney Plus, I've always found something enjoyable about all of them. There hasn't been a show that I've watched so far that I've completely hated. I'm not as skeptical as some people, and that's not a shot at you. But if I find something enjoyable out of it, then I will continue to watch it.
I tend to. I'm the same way. I don't.
That's why I stopped watching Walking Dead.
Yeah, I don't think there's ever been anything that I 100% find nothing to like about. Actors, for example, I almost never complain about actors and things because I almost never have a problem with the actors and things. I have a problem with their material, special effects, film work, stories, behind the scenes, production, drama, what have you, but there's always something to enjoy. She-Hulk, Tatiana Maslany is great. I will happily see her in better written material.
Yeah.
There were times I laughed in the 9 episodes. There's some good cameos like Wong and Daredevil. They were good. Blonsky. There is stuff that I enjoyed. Would I recommend this show to somebody? No. I'd say, if you're just looking for something, I'd say don't bother, honestly. But it's not 100% terrible. There is enjoyment factor if you can get past the bad stuff and just kind of take it for what it is, which is not a good recommendation, but it's also, I'm not saying it's the worst thing ever.
No.
So get off my
fine.
off my back comment section. She-Hulk is not the worst thing ever.
What would be the worst thing you've ever seen?
The worst thing I've ever seen?
Yeah. Just not in terms of the subject matter, but just it being bad.
Just being bad. I think I blocked out the things I think are really bad. Is the problem.
You don't want to go back.
When I think about, I tend to find enjoyment, like I said, in most things, but the things I really didn't like, I just block out. Let's see, one of the worst movies I've seen this year was, I hate to call things out, but one was called Memory. That one was with Liam Neeson. That one was the worst thing I've seen this year. Oh, actually, I didn't like, what was that movie called? The Gray Man? I didn't like that either. That was pretty bad, too.
It was alright. Overhyped.
Let's see. Yeah, Memory.
Doesn't have to be this year. It doesn't have to be this year, Joe.
I'm just saying this year because that's what I can remember. Like I said, I probably blocked out other things.
That's
fair. She-Hulk is one of the worst shows I've seen this year, but it still had some entertainment value.
Yeah.
I
think for me it would be Blonde. I think Blonde was more disappointing than bad. There's some artistic stuff that I like, but it's just bad choices all around.
Fair enough.
Most disappointing movie of the year besides Thor: Love and Thunder for me.
Yeah. I'm also trying to make more of a concerted effort to not watch things that don't look appealing to me.
Right.
I would not have even watched She-Hulk in the first place. Its marketing did not look good to me. It didn't. The Daredevil bit is the only thing that really sold me on the show, and my prior knowledge of the She-Hulk character, which was enough for me to be like, if I was somebody who'd never watched Marvel before, and knew nothing about She-Hulk from the comics, I don't think the show would look interesting to me at all. But I knew they had some decent source material to work with. I knew my favorite Marvel character of all time was going to be in it in some capacity. Their marketing paid off. I'll say, for example, Ms. Marvel, nothing they did in their marketing was good enough to convince me to watch that. That's the first Marvel thing I actively said, no, okay, I'm putting my line in the sand. I'm going to do everything based on the marketing now. Ms. Marvel didn't sell me. She-Hulk didn't sell me until it did. And that was just enough to get me in the door. I don't know what the next thing will be, but maybe I'll watch the next Marvel shows. Maybe I won't, but I'm not watching them all anymore. It's going to be on a very case-by-case basis.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think some of the shows that have been confirmed, I'm not huge on in terms of like excitement. I think there's one or Armor Wars. I'm not really excited about that. I think that character, the little girl, is being introduced in Wakanda Forever. I think that is the Ironheart, whatever that. Never mind, Ironheart, not Armor Wars. It's something completely different.
You know, the Secret Invasion trailer actually.
Blade is the other thing. Blade was the other thing that got delayed. I just realized that. That was the other thing that got delayed. Oh yeah, Agatha, Covenant of Chaos. I don't
care.
I don't care of that show. Yeah, Secret Invasion, that looks interesting.
See, that's a marketing that sold me. I'm like, okay, Nick Fury and Skrulls, and I'm like, the tone looked cool. It looked like Winter Soldier kind of vibe.
Emilia Clarke.
Yeah. You know what? This looks good. I don't know if it will be, but you convinced me just on one trailer.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Whereas, like, She-Hulk's trailers are debating whether Captain America's a virgin or not, and that's like, okay.
Captain America fucks!
I'm like, this is what you're trying to sell me with? Okay. Ooh, Daredevil!
We all knew it. Captain America bangs. Anyway.
Star-Lord's grandmother. I think she was the one.
What happened?
They said it was with a girl on the USO tour, and the only girl we clearly see him have a moment with is the same actress as Star-Lord's mother. And I don't know if Kevin Feige confirmed she's a relative of Star-Lord.
When do we see this?
There's
when Captain America's making out with that woman?
No, not her. There's on the
because that's Natalie Dormer.
On the Star Spangled Man with a Plan montage where he's punching Hitler out on the USO tours, there's that one moment where, like, the girl who played Star-Lord's mom, I don't know the actress, but that was her first appearance in a Marvel movie, but she comes up to Captain America looking for an autograph, and they, like, lock eyes at this moment, and she's, like, the only girl in that montage who, like, clearly catches Steve's attention. And then they say he had sex on the USO tour, and I'm like, I think it was her.
Interesting. That's a cool theory. Anyway, but yeah.
First Avengers, my favorite Marvel movie. I know. I had that theory immediately when they.
But here's a list for Phase 5, which is after Wakanda Forever, which looks promising. It looks promising. I don't know if you've seen the recent trailer. I know you're worried. But it looks like an actual film. Yeah,
Wakanda. It looks good. I hesitate that it even exists, but I'm like, okay, fine. Let's see what they give us. What's the list?
Happens. So, first movie, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which will introduce Kang.
Don't really care.
Well, it's gonna go well. Secret Invasion.
Interesting. Okay, so one for one.
Guardians of the Galaxy. Galaxy.
3.
I just had a stroke. Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3.
All in on that.
Which will be Dave Bautista's last movie, apparently.
Yep, I'm all in on that.
The Echo series, which Vincent D'Onofrio was confirmed to be in.
Also don't care, except Daredevil's probably going to be in it, too, so I'll watch it. I don't...
Right. Loki Season 3. Sorry, Loki season 2.
Don't really care, but I'll watch it.
The Marvels.
Don't
This
care.
is still all in 2023, by the way.
Yeah.
Blade. Is this a movie or a show?
I don't know, but
Blade. It's a movie, right?
I don't really care.
Still in 2023.
That's another one.
The Ironheart show.
Don't care. I know Riri Williams from the comics, and she
Winter.
hasn't interested me.
And then Winter, 2023 to 2024. Agatha, Coven of Chaos.
Don't care.
Daredevil show, which has been
Don't care.
delayed.
I'm kidding.
Captain America: New World Order,
Don't care.
which is a movie. And then the Thunderbolts, which is basically the Marvel Suicide Squad. So it's just
now that one's interesting to me because that one, who's on that one? There's like Yelena, John
it's
Walker,
confirmed. Yelena,
Red Hulk,
Bucky. Is Red Hulk confirmed?
I think he was talked about.
I thought it was Red Guardian. My bad. Who knows?
Red Guardian might be too. And
Red Guardian's on there.
Okay, so
I think they wanted guy from Civil War. What's his face?
Zemo.
Freaking Daniel Zemo. Yeah. They wanted Zemo, but I don't know if he's confirmed or not.
I don't know if you mentioned Armor Wars, but I am interested in Armor Wars too. But like,
it wasn't on their slate. It wasn't on their slate, but then they confirmed no, it's still happening.
Okay, so basically, out of all the ones you mentioned, I'm interested in a lot of them, but I don't care about the majority of those.
Yeah,
I'll probably watch most of them, but I'm not excited about over half of them.
I mean, the two things that I don't have really interest in is Echo and Agatha.
Echo is more interesting to me than some of the others because she was an interesting supporting character in Hawkeye. Like, that's one I don't care about, but I'm more interested than most of the others.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's cool. Okay, she's a deaf protagonist, and okay, that'll be a little bit different. She's got the mob backstory. She was an enforcer, works for the Kingpin. She's got this history with Kingpin. Mm-hmm. Daredevil might be in it. Like, she has the history with Hawkeye too. She's got an interesting backstory. Like, she's interesting to me. Like, not enough to be exciting, but I'm interested. So that's something.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting few years.
Yeah.
Because even the movie, it just feels more set up. I kind of like how Phase 4 has been very experimental, especially with Eternals and some of the other stuff, and most of it's hit or miss.
Most of it's miss.
There's some reviews I've seen Eternals that's like, this is the best MCU movie. Chloe Zhao is a genius. And it's like, did we watch the same movie?
Look, I feel very similar to Eternals as I do about Zack Snyder's DC movies. I understand why both are controversial. I understand why people love Eternals, just like I understand why people love Zack Snyder's version of DC. They're movies made in a very similar vein, that very self-serious superhero deconstruction kind of thing. They even have similar color palettes.
Is bad in both of them.
They even have very similar color palettes. So people who like Zack Snyder's movies probably liked Eternals too. I liked Zack Snyder's movies, and I didn't hate Eternals. I liked it more than most people who saw it, but I also don't care for it on the whole.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I rewatched it and it wasn't as bad as I remember.
It's fine.
But I even messaged you where there was the IMAX version on Disney Plus, and there's some action scenes that aren't shot in IMAX, but the one and only sex scene in the MCU is.
Don't forget about all the sex scenes in She-Hulk.
Well, those you don't even see.
I know.
But yeah, it's almost been a year. It's almost been a year since Eternals come out, and no one has even brought up the giant fucking celestial that's just in the ocean.
Oh yeah.
Are people just so numb to this world that they're just like, yeah, and it's just another day. It's another day on Earth.
Basically.
I will say that was a cool ending when the celestial showed up at the end. And then his like teleportation away was kind of like a black hole. I was like, ooh, good job, visual effects people. That's an inside joke.
The only thing I loved about that movie was Kumail Nanjiani, his character who created the entire Bollywood legacy. where he plays
Yep,
he thinks
that's
he's
a good joke.
his father and his son and his grandson, and he has this entire
I would do the
legacy
same
as a
thing.
Bollywood. That was hilarious. That was a great.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Okay, but let's wrap up. We've gone on too long.
You also missed the Game of Thrones joke
Game of Thrones
because you
joke.
haven't seen the show.
Mm.
But at the beginning of season 1, because both Kit Harington and Richard Madden are in Game of Thrones, and they play half brothers in the show. And in the show, Richard Madden tells Jon Snow, "Next time I see you, you'll be in all black." And in the movie, he's in all black. It's like the next time they're ever on screen together, and Kit Harington's in all black, and everyone's like, "Ah,
that's funny.
good one."
That is a good one. All right, let's wrap her up.
I wish they had more on-screen time.
We've gone on too long.
Yeah, overall, She-Hulk is okay. It's not the worst thing I've seen. There's been nothing that I've seen so far has maybe been like, God, I just hate this. I haven't hated anything yet, which is cause for concern because maybe I'm just in a little Stockholm syndrome at this point.
That twerking scene.
But yeah, other than that, I hated that. Never mind, I hated that.
Like I said, that scene nearly made me quit the MCU for what it represents as a whole. But like the show, it's in general is.
What's happened when a TikTok writer writes for an MCU movie?
Look! It's like we got Thor: Love and Thunder this year, and then the twerking scene, and I'm like, I'm just this close to being broken, you know? I'm not broken yet, but what we got in this year.
You introduce Gore the God Butcher, and he doesn't butcher any gods.
One god, just at the start of the movie.
Explain that to me.
And he cut off Lady Sif's arm. And he
and
killed,
then she doesn't even show up till the end.
And he killed a couple off
screen. And he kills a
screen.
giant monster.
Off screen.
It's stupid.
Whatever.
Off screen shit. But Christian Bale was amazing. Anyway. But then they kill him off. Anyway, spoilers for Thor: Love and Thunder. Anyway. But yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. You can.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, you finish. I don't have any more to say.
All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. You can find me at Ryan Walker Official on TikTok and on Instagram.
You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at ThoughtPlay Media and our Facebook page of the same name. Also, check out the Close Up with Ryan and Joe Facebook page for latest updates. If you listen to us in audio, check out our YouTube channel. And if you're on YouTube, find us anywhere you get your favorite podcasts. You can find further film discussion and entertainment reviews on thoughtplane.ca/articles. And if you'd be so kind, you can support ThoughtPlane Media on Patreon, link below. Also, be sure to leave us comments and reviews, as that's a big help. And how about clicking that like button if you enjoyed this? We hope to see you on the next Close Up with Ryan and Joe. Till next time.
Captain America